Music Rights special podcast that we are bringing to you live from Music Prime Studios in the capital of Harare, Zimbabwe. I'm your host, Faith Nyaudi. Now, today on the program, we have a hotly contested and debated issue stemming from the announcement by the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, Zimura, that cover bands are now going to pay 150 United States dollars per show license. On this episode today, we ask, is Zimura justified? What are the association's reasons behind this new arrangement? What are the key stakeholders saying? The musicians, artists, composers, instrumentalists, music managers, and everyone that is involved in that process. And now there seems to be a standoff. What is now the way forward? Our discussion, Zimura's cover band tariff. Is the move justified? To help us unpack and discuss this issue in studio today, I am joined by Henry Makombe, Deputy Director of the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. We also have Russell Mafudzi, Secretary General of the Music Management Forum in Zimbabwe. We have Victor Kunonga, who is an artist and musician. And joining us via Zoom is Vusam Kaya, singer, composer, and producer. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vusa, welcome to the show. I hope you can hear us. Now, let's get straight to the show, to the questions. Let's start from the beginning. The amount that is being proposed, 150 United States dollars, that is equivalent, the same amount equivalent to ZIG. How did you as Zimura arrive to this amount? Were there any consultations that were done, or someone just woke up and decided this is what we are now running with?
Okay, thank you very much, Faith. The Zimbabwe Music Rights Association is a professional organization. It's an organization which was established in 1982. So you've got 43 years experience in the business of collection and distribution of royalties as a CMO. So we've been drafting tariffs for different business entities that use music. So these cover bands are not in any way different from licensing a bar, a restaurant, or even a hotel. So what we do is we look at the market itself. How big is the market? Who is using music in that market? How are they using the music in that market? How are they getting paid? How much is it? And then we look at factors like our economy. How is it? Is it good? We also look at the issue of currencies that we are using. So it's a cocktail of different elements that we look at and consider when we are crafting our tariff. So for this one specifically, we looked at the number of songs that cover bands can perform in 3 hours, 4 hours when they are hired. We also looked at how much they are paid for that time. We also looked at how often these bands are being hired by venue owners. And we also looked at the natural process of running this business to say who owns copyright. Because cover bands perform music or content, rather, that does not belong to them. So is the owner of the content being performed benefiting out of it? So yes, we looked at all that and we did our calculations, simple maths, dividing number of tracks that a band can perform within that specific period by the amount that we want to license.
Now, I would go back. We're going to go further and discuss exactly, how you were saying you're calculating, because I feel it's much broader than you're just putting it across. But first, I want to hear from music stakeholders. They feel that 150 US dollars is a scam. As an artist and as you, Russell, in music management, do you feel this is fair? Do you think this is something that you agree with? I'll start with you, Victor.
Well, I'm represented by Zimura as a composer, a writer, and a producer. And I can say, unfortunately, I'm not part of the process that comes up with the figure. But what I am for is Over the years, this work by composers has been exploited over so many years, and the owners of the music, most of them late now, did not have a voice to then stand up and say, our work is being used and we are not getting any remuneration for it. So what I am for is the fact that money needs to get to the owner of the music. Why do I say so? We need to support the value chain. The music industry depends on music. Where does the music comes from? It's composed, which gives us a product. And what we need to always support is the product and not the channel through which the product is being sold, because there has to be a product first before we use all the other channels like YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and live performances. So what is it of utmost importance right now is all the other channels do pay back to the owner of the music, except live performances. So I think with regards to the tariff, that can be best answered by Russell. In my case, I will move on the together with the composers and producers and owners of the music, and say, look, at the end of the day, when the calculations are done, I feel, from my perspective, there is justification.
Now, Vusa, I would want to hear from you, like we are discussing right now. There are some music stakeholders who are saying that $150 being paid per show by cover bands is really not enough, or is it being overcharged? What is your take in regards to that?
My take on this is a bit different from what Komavitsa was saying. From my experience, bands that perform live don't pay any money for performing at any venue, as long as they are registered by Zimura or any other PRO around the world, right? So if you perform live, you list the songs that you have performed. This is what we call the set list. The name of the song, the name of the composer, the arranger, and the lyricist. And the venue pays the PRO. All venues pay a license to host live performances or festivals. They pay licenses. And that money that is paid by the venues is the one that goes to the composer of the song that was performed. Even I, as a songwriter, I get paid for performing my own songs. So my take on this is Zimura should make sure that venues are paying licenses, festivals are paying licenses, and musicians can perform and list all their songs at every gig so that the songwriters and composers get paid accordingly by Zimura from the money that is collected from the venues and from the festivals and other events.
So essentially, Zimura's focus shouldn't be on the cover bands, but should be on the venues that are hosting these shows. Russell, I want to bring it now to you. What is your take in regards to all this?
Well, basically, we've been talking back and forth. We had so many interviews with Zimura and engagements. But I would like to go back to your question, which you addressed to Zimura. In my view, how they came up with the $150 tariff. Zimura, from my view, from my perspective, Zimura came up with a $150 tariff in order to ban cover bands from performing, because one, it's not affordable. Why did they come up with that? They have major incompetencies that they've been facing as an organization. They've been incompetent in protecting intellectual, because their duty as Zimura is protecting intellectual property for the artists, for the composers. As managers, we stand for the composers as well as cover bands or artists. So they have failed to adequately collect royalties from radio stations, they failed to come up with medical aid schemes. They failed to even deal with piracy, just that simple issue. They failed to help their artists. We know the issue about Silent Killer and the Dembo family. They failed to protect my Dembo's legacy. That's copyright infringement right there. It's not a cover band. A cover band is performing. It's not making a copy. It's just performing for that moment. There's no copy after. So it's not copyright infringement, and it's not illegal. It's not illegal because there's a license for it. So if there's a license for it, then it can't be illegal, right? On payments, yes, maybe cover bands must pay, but not $150. If you're getting $50 a gig, there are cover bands that get as much as $50, and they get their own sanya. You know those tuma, like whatever they get, maybe kaufu or something, and they go home like that. They get $7 as a band. They actually go home. Those are the people they are banning. Those are the people they are banning from the music industry because they failed to protect intellectual property from the artist. The second reason why they are doing this is because they're getting now too much pressure from their members, from some of their members. You're not doing enough to help your members. So they're getting too much pressure from them. And the other members also want those spaces, like those $200 spaces that cover bands are playing. And then they're saying these guys are not composers, but they're playing at venues that we would want to play at. Yet as an established composer, there is a market that you have to cater for, which is not catered for by cover bands. Cover bands cater for small bars, small restaurants, and maybe for the small crowds.
Victor,
Now, as my colleague is here, like okay, he plays at some venues where cover bands play at, but he is a legend in the music industry. He's a legend with my Diary Reiko. That's a huge hit. That's a huge song, right? You should be looking for spaces at festivals, international world, and you should be able to charge $10 per show and it's filled, and not be touched by what a cover band charging $300 is doing.
Now, I want to hold you right there, Russell.
All right, thank you.
We have Victor. Victor, you are a member of Zimura, and he's just saying that some of the members are, I would like to say, jealous. That's the word you wanted to use, because if they are envious of the venues they're performing at, what term can we use for that?
We can't be used as jealous. It's about the maybe economy, right? They now want spaces. They now want the little mafufu money that cover bands are
getting. He's saying bigger artists now want what he's calling mafufu, the little things.
The little money.
How far true? Do you agree with what he's saying? Is that the case?
It's very unfortunate that we are going around an issue that is out there and straightforward for everyone to see. To begin with, the issue is, are the composers of the music getting what is due to them? Making music is not easy. It comes at a huge cost. Are you aware how much making a song costs?
I'm very much aware. I represent composers.
Right.
I represent
How
cover
much,
bands.
roughly?
From as
One
little
song?
as 50 to 200. Yeah, from as little as 50 to 200.
It's little.
That's recording. Oh, recording.
That's
recording. Okay, the charge from the producers, right?
No.
Anyway, I'll give you a perspective. Studios are charging close to, I think, $30 per hour, and to 150.
Maybe even more.
I know of a studio that's charging 600 for half day and 1.2 for the full day to record. And on average, a song will take you about 2 to 3 hours to record. You're going to pay the session musicians. There's the drummer, the bass guitarist, the lead guitarist, the keyboardist, the vocals and everything. We're talking of about 7 people that you're going to pay an average of maybe, let's say 50, to be modest, $50. You're going to master the song. You're going to mix the song in the studio. Those are extra hours. You got to master the song. You then market that song. When it gets popular, someone is on the other side waiting for it to get popular.
To fish it.
Pick it up, go perform, they get paid, and nothing comes back to the investment that the person who has created the music. That's one.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. Right,
so let me finish. That's one. You know, these guys are forgetting their existence lies in the creations by producers and writers and composers of music. They are on the other side, and this composer producer may not necessarily need the cover band. Why? If they are not remitting anything to the producer, to the owner of the music.
Victor, let's just take a quick break. We are coming back to you and we continue our discussion. We just have to take a quick breather. Stay with us.
Didn't graduate. I guess I blew it.
You couldn't advise him anything. He would just look at you and say, so who do you think you are?
We were just like really spoilt.
And then they just give me the receipt and I'd pay.
That guy walks in one day and then he says that he wants to make a movie.
He was blowing the money.
There was just like this habit that he had where as soon as he got money, it was gone.
I just didn't have the skills or the experience.
This money, I could see it disappear so fast.
Catch exclusive interviews every weekday for candid, exciting, and thought-provoking conversations with your host, Erika Ndoro.
We talk about arts, we can talk about sports, we can even talk about politics, and sometimes we venture into a nice guitaristic play.
The one story where you can't get out of your head. Wakatarisa munhu so Erika like where you are sitting. Ndozongokona bata face so pasina munhu.
Wakasiya music yako iyo afro chakuti ndo music manje yemuZimbabwe.
And I'm sure they're still saying the same thing now.
Yeah, so Shona kana kuti Chindevere kana mumwe mutauri muno muZimbabwe ndiwe iwewe. Ndiwo rupawo rwako. Ndicho chidadiso chako.
Catch me, Erika Ndoro, right here on ZTN Prime every single Monday at 7 p.m. whilst we get exclusive.
Welcome back. You are still watching this special podcast of Zimbabwe Music Rights that is brought to you by ZTN Prime, live here at our Herald House studios in the capital of Harare, Zimbabwe. Now, before the break, we had artist Victor Kunonga coming and saying, people just want to sow what they did, to reap what they did not sow, rather. They are waiting for the next big break so that they can have their next big break, and they're not benefiting from it. Is that right?
Yes. In other words, my point is it takes a lot to even think of a song. We can't, to put monetary value in an idea is a lot, and to then bring that idea to life. And when that idea is out there and thriving, we have exploiters of the idea without remitting anything to the creators of those ideas. And we are looking back at songs written in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or even 60s, up to date. So here I am as a Zimura member advocating for a lot of people who are voiceless because some of these artists have died and their families are struggling to make a living. And all what we are advocating for is cover bands, please use the music as long as you get a license to use the music. The license that you pay for goes to benefit the owners of the music and their families. Coming back to the other point where he's talking about, when you produce, when you record, you are a recording artist, you produce your own music, you must look for.
Okay.
That's unrealistic. We have to be frank with each other. Don't look at Victor Kunonga and what he has achieved in his career and say he needs to be at a certain level. There are artists who have made a conscious decision to produce their own music straight from college. And there's so many of them. So many of those artists. They are now being disadvantaged because he is coming in new, he wants his music to be exposed, but on the same platform, he is trying to compete with someone who is already riding on someone else's music. So what we are doing is we are killing the product because this young man is creating and writing new songs that the cover bands will want to use tomorrow. And they are not getting the required space in order to have their music exposed.
Now, Vusa, I want you to just quickly weigh in on this issue. What's your take in regards to this?
Yeah, I've been waiting. I agree with Mkoma Victor. Composers need to be paid. That one is clear. Songwriters need to be paid. That one is clear. And cover bands, except for now in Zimbabwe, worldwide, it's a big business. In cruise ships, in hotels, there are people performing cover bands every night because it's allowed. But as I said before, the venues and the festivals and the events are the ones that pay licenses to host these events. So my suggestion to Zimura, or my question rather, are the venues in Zimbabwe paying licenses to host these events, to host cover bands? Are the hotels paying licenses to host cover bands, not only cover bands, but to host bands that are performing live? Are they paying licenses to have DJs? Because DJs are also performing. They are playing music that we composed for people to dance in clubs. It looks like people are looking at cover bands and forgetting that we have DJs, we have gospel artists, we have church groups all performing. Are they paying licenses for their venues to host these events? Because elsewhere in the world, the venues are the ones that pay the PROs, and the PROs pay the composers. So for the composers to be paid, that one is not a question. They have to be paid for their intellectual property, for their songs. That one I agree. What I don't agree with is that the musicians pay for performing every night or every week or whatever, because I've never seen something like this. I've performed all over the world, and I've never heard or seen any artist saying we are paying because we are performing a Bob Marley song or a Michael Jackson song, or we are performing a UB40 song. But what happens is when you get into the venue, they give you you have to produce your set list for the night. Song number one, Beat It, songwriter Michael Jackson, lyricist so and so, and they will get paid for it because The collecting society of that particular country will collect from the venue, and according to the set list, they will make sure that everyone gets paid. This is what I'm saying. Please.
Zimura is in the
collect
building.
Money.
Zimura is in the building, Fusa, and we are just going to give Henry an opportunity to answer some of the questions you've raised. While you're at that, Henry, I want to also bring it back to the issue of the money that we did discuss earlier. Is it too much? Is it too little? You have been quoted saying rent is determined by the landlord and not a tenant. What did you mean by that? Isn't that you were chosen to look after someone else's house and now you are essentially making it your home? I want you to just weigh in on that and also answer what Vusa is also asking. Are musicians pay? Why are they paying? What's really the whole basis of this entire thing?
Okay, let me clarify on the issue of a landlord and tenant. When a member joins Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, they cede their rights to Zimura. They give us the mandate to manage their performing rights and their mechanical rights. So when I go to anyone who is using any repertoire under Zimura, I'm the landlord. I'm the landlord because I've been empowered by the owner of the property. So if, for example, a guest and tenor is managing a property of someone else who is in the UK, the landlord, during that time between, or the interactions between guest and tenor and the tenant, the landlord is guest and tenor. They sign an agreement, a lease agreement with guest and tenor. So that's the landlord-tenant part of it. The second point is, when we say Zimura, what do we really mean? Who owns Zimura? I'm just an employee. But who owns Zimura? This one and the rest of other guys. So you cannot separate Zimura and composers, because Zimura is a culmination, a collection of right holders. Those are the landlord. When I speak, I'm speaking on behalf of the landlord. I am the landlord. So he said, I may not understand how they arrived at 150, because he gave us that mandate. And we know that he's supposed to earn a living out of the tariffs that we create. And we have to make sure that the person that we license also remains in business. So the tariffs that we make are not prohibitive, are not ridiculous. Let's look at our law. Because everything, after all this halabaloo, after all this, if someone says, I don't want to pay Zimura, it is going back to the law. What does our Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act say? So Section 17 of the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act provides for the economical rights that the composer has exclusively to control or authorize, even to prohibit. Today, right now, as we speak, Tanga Wekwa Sandu gave us the mandate. The letter is circulating right now in social media. We've posted on our social media handles. He doesn't want anyone to perform his songs, or else you face a legal action. You have to get, now you are supposed to get permission direct from Tanga if you want to perform his songs. So if you do the easy calculations, how much do you think Tanga is going to ask for? Mm-hmm. Is he going to ask for $150, for $50 if you want to perform his songs? So if a cover band, for example, is going to perform 25 songs, 30 songs, and these individual artists, Victor says, I want to license by myself. So if a cover band is going to perform 20 songs, for example, And then each artist says, I want $50 per event. How much would that be? But our 150, we are saying, this is a buffet. You get local content, you get regional, you get international content. You select from the bouquet what you want to perform for 150. Yes.
But now
and then
to what Fusa now asked, are you also making these venues pay that amount of money? If now cover bands are going to be paying for it, at the current moment, where venues also paying for artists or these cover bands to come and perform at their venues?
Yes, I was going to come to that. Zimbabwe Music Rights Association is a member affiliate to CISAC, an international organization that regulates, controls all CMOs globally. So as CMOs, we also do our own conferences, our own workshops, meetings concerning corporate governance, concerning licensing, concerning development of the tariff, or even just exposure to go and see what others are doing in their different jurisdictions. So what we do is not in any way alien. It's not from Pluto or Venus. It's, it's something that is practiced world over. We license these public venues for background music, not for live performances. If you are licensed for background music and you do live performance, that's separate. That's different. So the owner of the venue is supposed to make sure that he or she hires someone who has got a valid license from Zimura, or else he also becomes an accomplice. According to the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act, a license must be sought first before the performance by the person who is going to perform, not the person who hired you.
Now, I want to come to Russell, but before we do come to you, Fusa, was your question answered?
No. No. I think what Mr. Magombe is saying, they're going to really, they're supposed to protect music and musicians. But what he is saying right now is, I mean, I don't know, I'm trying to find the right word and the political correct words for it. Because, like I said before, the venues pay licenses to host background music and live music. When he says what they are doing is done the world over, I really don't agree with that. Like I'm saying, I'm speaking from experience. I've traveled and performed in more than 50 countries. I've seen cover bands performing, and every time they perform, they write down their set list, and these venues and festivals are the ones that pay the license. And I'm still asking the same question. Are they collecting from the venues, and are they paying all the composers to perform, not only the cover bands, even the original, those who perform original music must be paid for performing their own music. I get paid for performing my own music because I put it on the set list. I don't play covers, but for being at the venue and perform live my own music, I get paid for it as a composer. So I'm not against, like I said, composers must be paid and they must benefit from their compositions. But this thing of saying artists must pay the venue, must pay Zimura for a license to perform, even if you ask our neighbors, South Africa or Botswana, they will tell you no artist goes to a venue and pays to perform, even if they're performing cover songs. But the original composers will get paid for it after a certain time because there is a set list as long as you acknowledge
Let's just allow
that this is
Henry
not your
to
song,
respond.
and
Just
you
allow Henry
acknowledge
to
the
respond to
songwriter,
you.
then there's nothing wrong.
Henry, I'm going to give you a
So,
chance to respond before we
thank you.
come to Russell.
Thank you very much. Vusa said I'm speaking from the experience point of view, and I'm speaking from the
Yes.
legal point of view in relation to our act. We know, even Samro, they've got per event license fees for the cover bands. It's not enough to have only the side of the artist and not have the side of the CMO itself. To explain this, they've got three options when you want to license a cover band. Either it has to be an annual fixed fee, or it has to be per event. They've got that, or it can be a percentage of either get takings or tickets, and the food or everything that is being sold on that event. Those are different options. So a CMO can choose any option that suits their environment. Our environment, we cannot compare it with Samro. South Africa economically is way, way ahead of us, and their currency is strong. They can afford to be cheaper. Why do we buy products from China coming to Zimbabwe? Because products are cheaper in China. Our tariff right now, as it stands, is more expensive than that one of South Africa. South Africa is a big market. They can afford to relax or not even to license other people, content creators, for example. But with us right now, we are forced, we are squeezed, we are in a corner, and we are forced to make sure that we follow every dollar. And we are going to the guys of saxophones, we are going to those those content creators that use music to market their wares. But other CMOs, they may not choose to license those ones. But it does not mean that what they are doing is illegal.
Now, Russell, why are you so against this tariff? Why are you against the licensing of cover bands when they're performing? Because from what Victor has said, as an artist, he says he also wants to make money. From what Zimura is saying, they want to protect and ensure that artists get a living. Why are you against it?
I'm not really against licensing of cover bands. What I am against is the way they are charging and doing it illegally. As I said before, to help Vusa.
Why are you saying
let me say
illegally
this.
when
Let me
we
say,
are a legal
let me say
entity
this.
and whatever
right
we are
now,
doing is consistent with the Copyright Act?
He has answered Vusa and said all the 50 venues that Vusa has performed at, they are doing it illegally because he's saying Vusa has said it from an experience point of view, and he's saying he is talking from a legal point of view. So what Vusa has experienced is in turn illegal because you're saying you're speaking from a legal point of view. Now we keep
I didn't
going.
say that.
We keep.
I didn't say that.
We
That's
keep
your own
going.
assumption.
We
What I'm
keep
simply
going
saying
back.
is
We
what
keep
we are
going back
doing
and
is
forth.
consistent with the
You
Copyright
tell
and Labor
Zimura.
Rights Act.
You tell
let's
Zimura. You
just
tell
finish
Zimura
first.
1 + 1 is 2. They keep saying it's 4 and they stick to it. You tell them 1 + 1 is 2. They keep saying it's 4 and they stick to it. It's venues with a blanket license. A cover band you're not supposed to pay because that's double payment. Unless you're saying the
What do you mean
DJ,
when you
because
say
a DJ is a performer. They're saying now a DJ, it's okay. A DJ can be covered by a license that is paid by the venue. But the cover artist cannot be covered by the same license, right? Because you said background music. You say background music,
on our
right?
tariff, we've got licenses for DJs.
Yeah, so
and
for
we've
background
got resident
music.
Resident DJs. If you employ a resident DJ at your nightclub, you don't need a license from Zimura. But we've got those DJs that grasp hopes from one venue to the other.
In essence,
those ones, they need a license.
In essence,
yes.
In essence, where a venue has a blanket license.
A blanket license, what does it mean?
Okay, now a cover artist if a cover artist does a performance, a private performance, let's say a private function, they're now eligible to pay a license so that they don't become two licenses. Now, from this perspective, as I said before, this is just a ban as a scapegoat, putting the cover band as a scapegoat because of the mistakes that they have done, because of the incompetencies that they've done. I used to be an arts and repertoire manager at Diamond Studios. At Diamond Studios and I know other record labels, they have stacks and stacks and piles of CDs and cassettes. From start, I thought it was because Zimbabwe did not adapt to the modern world, where you can actually sell your music online. But then when I went outside, I saw these CDs are being sold on the streets. They're actually being sold. There is a market for it. There was a market. There was a bigger market when I was at Diamond Studios, and there is still a market. Still, CDs are still being bought. So they can't confront those people. So with the pressure that they're getting now because we all know where CDs are being printed. If you want addresses, I can give you. Now, the pressure they're getting from artists, because they're unable to protect the copyright works, they're now whispering into the artist's ear, no, these cover bands are the ones that are taking money from you. Yet the cover bands get less than $100, $150. Now they're taking that because that's a smaller fish to attack. So they're in turn banning the cover bands, because when you charge someone $150 per gig, it's all right. I've said this before. $150 per show. If a cover band is doing 2 shows in a week, that's $300. I've said this before. 300 times 52 weeks. That's 15,600 per year. That's the license for cover band.
Where you would have
right?
gotten 45,000. So what's 15,000?
You can't get that.
Where you have gotten 50,000.
Okay, I think
I'm saying cover band are getting less than $50.
Russell, I think okay.
The 150 that comes from nowhere.
We want to allow also Victor to weigh in on this issue, and also Fusa, because he also has a metered connection. We just want to hear what he has to say, just real quick. Fusa, what's your take?
I agree with Nkoma, what's his name, Russell. Zimura needs to pay composers and songwriters. And they need to collect money from the venues. I will say this again and again. They need to collect money from the venues, from the events, from the festivals, and not from the musicians. What they can do, my suggestion, they can go back to the drawing board and say everyone who performs in Zimbabwe, including cover bands, must be registered members of Zimura and pay a certain fee to have a license. Let's say $50 a year or $100 a year per musician to be a member of Zimura. That, I think, will be the best thing to do. No. Compared to saying they pay 150 every night or after every gig. If they will say every musician must be registered with Zimura and must pay a certain fee every year in order for you to practice, then I think there won't be any problem.
Okay, Victor, I'm sorry, Russell. Before we come to you, Russell, and then you, Henry, we just want to allow Victor to weigh in on this issue as well.
Yeah, a lot of confusion I'm hearing from my fellow colleagues. It is clear we all agree composers, producers, and writers need to be paid. So the issue we are now discussing is how they should be paid. And I have my own personal belief in that the perpetrator must be accountable. That's my belief. If you make a choice to say, this is how I'm going to make a living, it's your choice. Because someone else is making a choice to produce original music. If you make a choice that you want to live off cover songs, it's your choice. You are carrying your choice to the venue. Yes. You carry your choice to the venue, You must be then accountable for the choices that you make. Why am I for the reason that cover bands should register with Zimura and present their repertoire? Is there are going to be many instances where we can't account for where they are, because venues are different. There are venues that are known and some venues that are not known. For example, I personally can invite a cover band for my birthday at home. Who becomes accountable for the copyright license? Because you can't track me down, and how many other people out there are like that? A lot of these cover bands are actually being used in a lot of private places, and they are infringing copyright and unaccounted for.
Russell, you seem to have a lot to say.
I agree with Nkoma Victor here. They're saying they're private spaces that they do not know whether the cover band has played or not. Then charging $150 per gig will be, does not make sense. They should charge an annual fee that covers the cover band just for doing covers, whether they're doing a private function, whether they're doing it at, they shouldn't charge it per fee, per performance, because it's unaccounted for. It cannot be accounted for. The same way they're charging right now $375 for a restaurant license per year. They're charging $375 per year for a restaurant license.
That's the minimum.
Yes,
They're
charging them per year.
That's the minimum,
right?
And
they should also charge cover per gig per show.
Per gig per show. Yes.
Now, if you're charging per show, as I said before, you are banning cover bands because you want you want to make your composers happy.
We now have about 3 minutes left on our clock, so I'm just going to try and give you all some closing arguments so that you say whatever you feel you have to say, but in the most minimum amount of time as you possibly can. Victor.
Yes, I was still continuing with my story. Russell speaks about $150 is what is they're being paid. We must then interrogate why they are being paid $150, because we want to build an industry. There are unacceptable standards, because someone is walking in without any accountability in terms of what the track record of what they've done behind. If you are just going to walk in riding on someone else, people will dictate to you what they want to pay. And they're accepting it because they lose nothing. They don't know what it costs to make music. So we want to build an industry, a viable industry for everybody, from the creator, who manufactures the product, to the end user, who is the cover band. So we must all enter and make sure that this value chain is balanced and pays everybody. But first acknowledgement must be the original product.
Henry, what do you have to say about that? Do you agree? I mean, there are questions that were raised also by Fusa. He said that why is it that you are not really, he feels he hasn't been answered in regards to whether you're charging venues or not. There has been some point of contention when it comes to Russell as well. What's your take on that? I saw you trying to chip in and say a lot of things while he was speaking as well.
I said it before, that Zimura is a professional organization. Whatever we do, we must have a fallback plan in terms of getting support from the act that we enforce. Because all this, what my brother is saying, talking about failures in this, failures in that, incompetence, this is alabalu. This is alabalu. Because these are, that's his opinion. I respect that. But we have been doing AGMs every year. We have been doing distributions every year, local, regional, and international. We can prove that. So, and that's what we exist for. We exist to collect from whoever we see using our content. So when we go to the cover bands, they are our clients just like a restaurant. They are our clients just like a bar. They should pay, period. They should pay, not pay. And you can't. That's what what we were talking about.
Just like restaurants.
These guys, they get paid per event. And what they do is what has been said by my brother here, they are riding on someone's property and they are using that advantage to penetrate the market on a softer ground. They are selling their voices, they are selling themselves, their brands, using someone else's who used a hard way to market, to compose, to produce, and do everything the hard way. So they should pay for that. Yes. And the owner of the property should benefit from it, should be able to earn a living out of it. And that's what we exist.
Russell?
Yeah, just like restaurant, I agree. Just like restaurants, cover bands are also the same. Your clients, restaurants are paying per year. Cover bands can also pay per year. Cover bands, restaurants are riding on, let's say, palenta if they're selling sadza, because they're paying for the palenta. Let's pay per year. But back to the point now on how the music industry is. Respectfully to the composers, as I respect the composers and the music makers, and I say there is no limit to what they create. Creation is there's no limit to that. Zimura is under pressure, as I said again, from their members, continued members, as I said. But they're now killing the industry from where it starts from. They're killing the future of the industry, trying to justify and raise money in a legal way to the composers. Why do I mean that? When you're in music college as a student, you're learning music. If you're learning marimba, mbira, or guitar, you're learning music with cover songs.
And then?
Right?
That's for educational purposes.
That's
and it's
for
provided
educational.
For in the act.
That's for
you
educational.
can do that for free.
And I agree with you. I agree with you that much.
It's no longer educational.
Now, and I agree.
When you go out there.
I agree with you. So when a cover artist, now when you leave the college, now you need to make your own music, which is expensive to do so, right?
Then pay for it.
Right? I understand.
If you find it expensive.
I understand. I'm coming to my point. You need to pay the producer. You need to pay.
You need to think of the music.
You need to think of the music, and then you pay for the producer, right? That's money. You're paying the producer to make your music. So there is a way now for artists to raise money, to help them pay for those production processes, pay for the visuals, market their music. The way is they cover songs, and it's not illegal to be a cover band. It's not illegal to be a cover band.
Without permission, it's illegal.
No,
I'm saying is circulated this letter.
As 150
Do
pay,
that cover.
150 pay gig, you are now banning them. Because they can't come and then
they
can't come in and then he's talking about Tanga. Tanga withdrew in his statement. He withdrew. He said, Zimura, please do not collect my money from cover bands. I'll collect myself because he does not trust Zimura, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
From the press statement.
You think
from
he said
his press statement.
His press statement is too little. He wants more.
No, his press statement is different from Zimura's press statement.
He wants more.
He's got his press statement. He said, okay, I do not want Zimura to collect. And
Because
then I also want
Zimura.
Zimura, we have addressed this issue as artists, so he is also requesting for medical aid. Zimura should have addressed that medical aid issue. I'm sure Mr. Makombe has medical aid, but his employers do not have medical aid, do not have pensions. But maybe he's got a better package as an employee at Zimura than his employers. Now he wants to take the scapegoat. if he's saying that they have not failed, I want him to tell me that from copyright infringement, from the CDs, from the copyright infringement of Dembo's song, of Dino Mudondo, because I've been emailing Zimura along with Dino Mudondo. There was a song that was done in South Africa called Jatrofa by a South African band. We approached Zimura, I think it's in H Metro. We approached Zimura 6 years back, I think. But there was nothing done. We have given them proof that this song was copywritten. The band, we've given them contacts, we've given them chats with that band. Okay. So they're banning cover bands.
Now, because we did talk about the aspect and the element of time that we have unfortunately now run out of, I want to allow Henry to just respond just quickly before I ask my final question as we conclude this. Henry, do you agree with what the accusations that Russell is saying, these allegations, are they true?
They are not true. They are not true because in our departments, we've got a department called Membership and Documentation Distribution Department. They handle these issues that he spoke about.
So they were compensated, these artists.
The issue of Dino and another band or someone in South Africa. Like I said before, that we've got reciprocal agreements with other sister CMOs dotted world over. We communicate through CMOs. If, say for example, Samro wants to talk to Victor, they come through us, and we introduce Victor to Samro and what they want to understand and know. So if we've got a challenge with getting the information of the person, the perpetrator in that territory of South Africa. South Africa is big, is huge. And trying to trace and get contacts of this guy or this band was difficult for Samro. And you can't blame us because we have done our part.
Okay. Unfortunately, sorry,
we have the contacts.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. I just now have to just jump in.
We do have the contacts of those people.
I have to just jump in now and cut that short because we do now have about 30 seconds left. After all this is said and done, after we've debated and said about this, Zimura is still going to go through with this law. They are still going to implement it. As artists, do you support it?
They are representing me and a multitude of other artists who are content creators. And content creation needs to be protected so that the cover band has content to use tomorrow.
Now, Russell, if there is anyone who wants to go against Zimura in regards to that, what are they going to do about it?
We're a family in the music industry. There's a family, father, mother, but Panana Tete, we will engage Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Arts, NACZ, WIPO, which is World Intellectual Property Organization, and he said this with CSAC. There's a potential ban, and it will be bad for the Zimbabwe music industry if Zimura was to be banned from collecting, from dealing with other CMOs around the world, because they're setting a bad precedent on the music industry.
Now, Henry, is Zimura going to back down in regards to implementing this law? Just real quick. Your response can just please be just precise and short.
No.
Mm-hmm. In regards to what he's saying, you seem a bit shell-shocked also in regards to that.
If you're not dealing, if you're not dealing according to the world standards, maybe they might pull you off.
I said it before. I said it before.
We will approach Anatete.
He's free to do that. He's free to do that.
Thank you, gentlemen. But
thank you so much.
Now our time has run out. We do not have any more time. But what an exciting episode we just had here on Zimura's cover band, Tariff. It is unfortunate that we did have to run out of time, but I would like to thank my guest, Henry Makombe, Deputy Director of Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. We also had Russell Mafuzi, Secretary General, Music Management Forum in Zimbabwe, Victor Kunonga, an artist, and Vusa Makaya, artist and musician. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in to ZTN Prime's Music Rights Special Podcast. I have been your host, Faith Nyode. Good evening and pleasant viewing.